The rain had been falling for hours, turning the Anzio airfield into a swamp of mud and misery. Staff Sergeant Lena Carter hunched beneath the wing of a battered P-47 Thunderbolt, her hands numb, her coveralls soaked through. The only light came from a flickering lantern, casting long shadows across the tarmac. It was 2:10 a.m., February 14th, 1944. Lena's squadron, the 86th Fighter Group, had lost 3 pilots in the last week. Each time, the story was the same. The Thunderbolts, jugs as the pilots called them, were caught low and slow by German WWIIs. The Focke-Wulfs would appear out of the clouds, pounce and vanish, leaving behind burning wrecks and empty bunks. Tonight, Lena was alone with her thoughts and the ghostly echoes of laughter from the mess tent. She remembered the last words of Lieutenant Billy Harper, the youngest pilot in the squadron, who'd asked her to make the old girl sing before his final mission. He never came back. She wiped her hands on a rag, staring at the engine cowling. Something was wrong with these planes, she thought. Something nobody in command wanted to admit. The pilots blamed themselves, the officers blamed the weather, but Lena knew the truth was somewhere in the guts of the machine. She reached for her toolkit, determined to find it before dawn. The P-47 Thunderbolt was a Beast 8.50 caliber machine guns, a massive radial engine and a turbocharger that could hurl it to 30,000 feet. But in the low-level dogfights over Italy, the turbocharger was a liability. Pilots complained of a lag when they slammed the throttle forward, a hesitation that left them vulnerable in the crucial seconds after spotting an enemy. Lena had heard the complaints, seen the aftermath. She'd crawled through the wreckage of Harper's jug, her fingers tracing the twisted metal, the scorched wires. The engine was intact, the controls undamaged. But the turbocharger actuator, a small electric switch buried deep in the fuselage, was charred. She pulled the maintenance logs. The same part had failed on 2 other aircraft. The official report called it combat damage. Lena wasn't so sure. She spent the next hour stripping the actuator from a grounded P-47. The switch was corroded, the contacts pitted. She tested it with a voltmeter. The response was sluggish, the current weak. In the heat of battle, that delay could mean the difference between life and death. She checked the supply tent. No replacements. The quartermaster shrugged. "We're waiting on a shipment from Naples," he said. "Could be days." Lena stared at the broken switch in her hand. She thought of Harper, of the other pilots who'd trusted her with their lives. She made a decision. The rain had eased to a drizzle. Lena slipped into the salvage yard, a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered dreams. She found what she was looking for, the remains of a downed FW-190. Its cockpit smashed, but the control panel mostly intact. She pried open the access hatch, her flashlight beam dancing over the unfamiliar German labels. There, nestled among the wires, was a sturdy toggle switch, bigger and heavier than the American part, but built to last. She unscrewed it, pocketed the switch, and hurried back to the maintenance tent. She worked quickly, stripping wires, soldering connections, her hands steady despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. The German switch fit awkwardly in the P-47's actuator housing, but it worked. She tested it 3 times, listening. To the turbocharger spool up instantly, the engine roaring with new life. She knew what she was doing was illegal. Unauthorized modifications were grounds for a court-martial, but Lena didn't care. She thought of the empty bunks, the folded flags, the letters home. She thought of Harper's smile. By 4 a.m. the job was done. She wiped her hands, closed the cowling, and left a note for Captain Joe Tex Morgan, the squadron's best pilot. "Try her now, she sing." The sky was a bruised purple as Tex Morgan strode onto the flight line, his Stetson tilted against the wind. He found Lena waiting by the P-47, her eyes red from lack of sleep. "What's this about making her sing?" he asked, grinning. "Just try the throttle," Lena replied. Tex climbed into the cockpit, ran through the pre-flight checks. He pushed the throttle forward. The engine responded instantly, the turbocharger whining like a banshee. Tex's eyebrows shot up. "Feels different," he said. "Just trust me," Lena replied. Tex taxied out, joined the rest of the squadron as they lifted off into the dawn. The mission was a routine sweep over the Alban Hills, but nothing was routine in this war. 20 minutes in, the radio crackled, "Bandits, 10 o'clock high!" 4 FW-190s dropped out of the clouds, guns blazing. Tex rolled hard left, yanking the throttle wide open. In the old days, the engine would have hesitated, the turbo lagging behind his desperate maneuver. Today, the response was immediate. The Jug leapt forward, climbing out of the kill zone. Tex looped back, caught a Focke-Wulf in his sights, and squeezed the trigger. Tracers stitched across the sky. The German plane exploded in a fireball. Tex's wingman, Lieutenant O'Malley, was in trouble. 2 FW-190s had him bracketed. Tex dove, throttle wide, the engine howling. He closed the distance in seconds, shot one Focke-Wulf off O'Malley's tail, forced the other to break away. The fight lasted 6 minutes. When it was over, 2 German planes were down, and every American pilot had made it home. Tex landed, engines still purring. He found Lena by the hangar, her hands shaking. "What did you do?" he asked. She told him. He hugged her hard. "You saved my life," he whispered. Within days, every mechanic in the 86th Fighter Group had heard about Lena's German switch. Some were skeptical, others eager. Lena showed them how to install it, how to test the response. Soon, every P-47 on the line had the modification. The results were immediate. Pilots reported faster throttle response, more confidence in low-level fights. The kill ratio began to shift. In the next 2 weeks, the squadron lost only 1 plane while claiming 12 enemy aircraft. Other groups noticed. Mechanics from the 57th and 324th Fighter Groups visited Lena, asking for advice. She shared her notes, her techniques, her warnings about the risks. The innovation spread, pilot to pilot, mechanic to mechanic, bypassing official channels. The officers noticed the improvement but couldn't explain it. Maintenance logs were vague, the modifications hidden during inspections. The Luftwaffe noticed too. German pilots reported that the American Jugs were more aggressive, impossible to catch by surprise. The old tactics no longer worked. By March, the Allies had air superiority over Anzio. The ground troops cheered as Thunderbolts roared overhead, strafing enemy positions, turning the tide of the battle. On March 10th, a team from the Army Air Forces Engineering Command arrived at Anzio. They were there to investigate the sudden improvement in P-47 performance. Captain Harold Finch, a by-the-book officer from Wright Field, inspected the aircraft. He found the German switches, the soldered wires, the handwritten notes in Lena's logbook. He summoned Lena to his tent. "Sergeant Carter, do you know the penalty for unauthorized modifications to government property?" he asked. Lena stood at attention, her heart pounding. "Yes, sir. Why did you do it?" She told him everything: the failures, the losses, the desperation, the gamble. Finch listened in silence. When she finished, he nodded. "You broke the rules," he said. "But you saved lives. That's what matters." He wrote a report recommending the modification for official adoption. He also recommended Lena for a commendation. The new switch was standardized across all P-47s in the theater. The pilots called it Carter's click. The war ground on, but the skies over Italy belonged to the Thunderbolts. Lena watched as new pilots arrived, fresh-faced and eager, flying planes with her switch installed. She received a letter from Tex Morgan, now stationed in France. "We're still flying with Carter's click," he wrote. "Every time I slam the throttle, I think of you." Lena was promoted to technical sergeant, awarded the Bronze Star, but she never forgot the faces of the pilots she couldn't save, the empty bunks, the folded flags. After the war, she returned to Ohio, opened a small garage, fixed tractors and trucks. She rarely spoke of her time at Anzio. When people asked, she'd smile and say, "I was just a mechanic." But in her workshop, above the workbench, she kept a battered toggle switch, its metal worn smooth by years of use. A reminder of the night she broke the rules and changed the course of a battle. In 1998, Dr. Samuel Klein, a military historian, was researching the Anzio campaign when he stumbled across a reference to Carter's click in a faded maintenance log. Intrigued, he tracked down Lena Carter, now in her 70s. Still running her garage? He asked her about the switch, the modification, the risks she took. Lena shrugged. It wasn't anything special, she said. Just something that needed doing. Dr. Klein wrote an article, published in a small aviation journal. He estimated that Lena's innovation had saved dozens of lives, perhaps more. The story spread, inspiring a new generation of engineers and mechanics. Lena passed away in 2003, her obituary mentioning her service in the Army Air Forces. It did not mention the switch, the gamble, or the lives she saved, but in the National Museum of the United States Air Force, a display case now holds a battered toggle switch labeled simply, Carter's Click Anzio, 1944. The plaque reads, "Innovation is born of necessity. Courage and the willingness to break the rules when lives are at stake. Remember the mechanics. Remember the forgotten switch." Asterisk, if you found this story as moving as we did, please take a moment to share it. History is not just the story of generals and battles, but of the men and women who worked in the shadows, who risked everything for a chance to save a life. Do you know an unsung hero? Someone whose quiet innovation made a difference? Tell us in the comments. Every story matters. Every voice deserves to be heard. Subscribe to our channel for more forgotten stories from the Second World War and beyond. From the muddy airfields of Italy to the frozen forests of the Ardennes, we're committed to bringing you the tales that history books overlook. Thank you for watching. Thank you for remembering.